Good evening, everyone. Thank you for dropping in. This is Dropping Knowledge by Trinity. I appreciate you stopping by. Today, we are on a subject talking about becoming a owner-operator. Today is July the 8th, 2025. So I wanted to start this podcast because I just had something to say. I had something to say for all the people that are wondering, how is the trucking industry? Should I or should I not become an owner operator? Some of the things that I have run into in this industry, and some knowledge that may help you out or some that you may already know. But I just wanted to put out there something that may help someone else from going down a path that they might not be able to recover from. So I have been a owner operator for almost going on about 5 years now. And I must say, I left the corporate industry and I don't think I will return. They say once you go into the trucking industry, it is extremely hard to get out of this industry, and they were not wrong. However, becoming a owner operator is a whole nother ball game versus being a company driver. I was a company driver, I would say about 2 years before I got into being an owner operator. And honestly, I would have stayed a company driver if there was more opportunity and the industry just wasn't so rigid. But honestly, there is perks on both sides, company driver or owner operator. But today we are going to talk about, should you become an owner operator, get your own authority, or lease on to a contracting company. But before we do that, let's talk about the percentage of drivers, owner operators, that fall out of the game within a year. So statistics say that at least 90% of owner operators that have their own authority fall out of the game their first year. And a little over 90% of owner operators that are leased on to contracting companies fall out of the game within a year. And let me tell you why those stats aren't lying. The orientation team the orientation that I was in a few years ago, it consisted of, I don't know, maybe about 10 of us, just say 10. And we all kept in contact with each other. By the end of that first year, it was about at least half of the people that got started with me were no longer in business, whether it was repairs or finances, or they really just didn't know what they were doing. And when I say they really didn't know what they were doing, I mean as far as picking loads, knowing which agents to do business with and which agents weren't, neglecting their repairs. I mean, we're going to go deeper into this as we talk about the beginning of becoming an owner operator and things to look out for. But like we were saying, 90% of owner operators do not make it their first year. And a lot of it also has to do with, have you had any knowledge about owning your own business even before you got into trucking? Because a lot of it goes on being able to hold down many hats, being the finance person, being the administrator, being the tax person. You know, there is extremely a lot of responsibility that owner operators have to burden, and a lot of times they're doing it by themselves. And the first mistake that I've seen a lot of drivers do is finance a truck that the interest rate is way higher than it should be, or the truck itself is marked up way higher than it should be. And we can look at 2020, 2021, when everybody decided to get into the trucking game and people were out here buying $200,000 2017 trucks. I mean, and I get it. People had a passion, and I think a lot of the passion really didn't have to do with trucking. They were getting hyped up by social media, maybe friends, talking about how much money they were making in the industry. And unfortunately, a lot of those drivers are no longer in the industry. And the drivers that I do see still in the industry with high truck notes, They can't stop. They cannot stop working each week. Each week, they have to find the highest paying load to keep them above water. Now, let's talk about owner operators that decide to get their own authority versus contracting with a contracting company. Now, I decided to actually contract with a company because I didn't want the stress. And that's the stress of all the paperwork, the administrative work. I mean, when you say you're going to wear a lot of hats, you definitely are going to wear a lot of hats. And when I was a company driver, I used to ask a lot of drivers that had their own authority, should I get in the game and how is the game? And a lot of them were a lot of them were bitter. A lot of them were angry. A lot of them did not have good experiences getting their own authority because a lot of them were completely by themselves trying to figure out the industry. And what I've seen a lot of people do is they use their own personal savings to start their business, when that is like the number one mistake that you can do starting a business, is relying on your personal savings on an industry that you don't even know if you're going to thrive in or not yet. So not only are people losing their businesses and leaving the industry, but they can't even go back to their savings. So now not only is their savings depleted, but a lot of times their credit is destroyed by trying to hang on to their business the best that they can. And I don't think it's that drivers don't want to ask for help. I do think there's a large amount of people that are like, I got this, or they might feel that people will not point them in the right direction. But what people fail to understand is that any business that you get in, you have to have someone mentoring you and making sure that you're making the right decisions if you have not been in that industry before. Trucking is such a learning curve, especially for new people getting into the industry. And even for old people, even for the OGs, a lot of them may be like, okay, this year is doing good, and then the next year after that is totally left. I think the only reason why I survived as an owner-operator for so many years is, one, I wasn't afraid to stop and ask questions. And then two, you have to do your own research. And three, I was not in it just for the money. I was definitely in it because I like the freedom and I enjoy what I did. But I didn't enjoy what I did so much that I was losing financially, mentally, physically. I don't really think that a lot of drivers know the lifestyle adjustment that you have to do in order to survive in trucking, and the solitude that you are when you're in this industry. And mental health is real. Mental health is real because you have a lot of stressors, like I said, financial. You're out on the road all the time. You're taking showers at truck stops. The food is unhealthy. There are a lot of stressors that a lot of truck drivers don't understand that their body and mind is going through until it's too late. I can literally talk about trucking and the good and the bad of the industry for hours if you let me. But I really want to start this podcast to drop knowledge to people who are thinking about getting into the industry, new to the industry, or people that need a refresher or outlook from someone different. I am going to try to drop some knowledge at least once a week. And this is just my 2 cents. I know it hasn't been 30 years, 40 years in the game. And that's respectfully saying for some of the OGs. But I think being an owner operator in this system and this time for at least 5 years, I think you're doing pretty good for yourself. So like I said, I'm going to try to talk about subjects that we or I haven't heard talked about in the industry or social media. And if you have any subjects that you would like to talk about, drop it in the comments and I'll follow up on that. But meanwhile, keep rolling, be safe, and I'll see you on the next episode.